Hello everyone. In today's video, I'm going to continue the 7th lecture in Dynamo course for beginners, and in today's lesson we will have a detailed look at what Dynamo Nodes can do and what they are as types and as the function they can do. And in today's video, specifically, I need to have a look at the anatomy of the nodes, their states, how we wire them, and the type of wires and the option we have, nodes by source, and the type of nodes also. So let's start. You can see here, as we spoke about that in the previous lecture, that a very basic node that we have, like a circle one, that have inputs and outputs, and it's a process unit by itself, and it's a separated command. So if you go and start your your Dynamo and just write circle and then in the library research, and you're going to get the same thing exactly as was showing in the PowerPoint. You can see that this is the command, and again it's made of main 5 parts. The first one is the name here, and when you hover above the name, you can see in the top part is a pop-up white text box that can give you the detail and how you can write it if you can use the textual platform. And as you can see, it's started by, so it's a constructor, so it's targeting to create something, and as you can see, it's creating a circle in here. It have ports, so it's a normal process unit, so it have output and input. So those are the inputs. When you hover above, it's actually can tell you what type of input it's expecting, which is a point, and it's already have a default value of a 0, 0 as a point, and that's a radius, so it's expecting a double, and the value is 1, and the result is circle. So the object geometry created is a circle, and you can see the circle back here in the background. Again, if you hover above, this bubble is going to pop up, so if you can just pin it, and you can keep looking at the resulted geometry and its detail and parameter. This dude here, this text here for lacing, and we're going to come back later to it, but in any case, if you want to go curious, there's 4 types of lacing: automatic, short, and long, and I need to detail that later in the video, but it's going to show you what type of lacing you have in here. And also by right-clicking on the body of it, you can access all types of functions that you can do: freeze it, remove it, clean it, make it a group of it, or clear it as an output. Again, those functions, we will talk about them soon. And when you select the circle, the node, it will be indicated as a selected by this bluish frame around it. That's basically it. Now, if you look at the node's state, and this slide has been taken from Dynamo Primer, you have to have a look at that. Really important source. That's the link down there, and you can find it also in the references. And in it, you can see that if the node is happy and working and active here, that's the shape and that's the color. So if I go back to Dynamo, for example, now this is an active and it's a very happy node and functional, and it's have the inputs by default already been designed, and even if you don't feed the inputs, and there is a circle here as a result, and you can see the result is already there. If the actual default node that you have is not really having the full input, it will be inactive. And the shape of it will be like this. I need to show you that maybe in the custom node, my custom node actually, maybe, I'm not sure which one. Let's see this now. Yep, see this one, for example? It's actually, you add it and you can see it's different from this one. Those are happy active ones. Yes, that's because you can tell that the dark thing here, the dark frame, and it's already giving you an output. This guy is still waiting for the inputs. Sometimes the value is not, you have to select an object so this kind to work, but there is a default value for one of those inputs, but this one is still missing. So it's inactive and doesn't get any results from it. The red one, it's basically giving you an error state. It's sometimes happen when if it's a custom node and you don't have it, you can see it's red with X on it. It depends on what type of Dynamo you have, 1 or 1.3 to 2.6, and also there is also, if there is a serious error, you get this red color in the node. If you freeze the node to prevent it from doing everything and to cancel its act, you can just select it, right click and freeze it, and you can see it's a bit of a transparent now with a dotted line around it, and it's actually, it doesn't prevent it from being seen, but it's actually been like turned off or frozen out of the overall process. If you want to hide it, that's a different issue, so just right click on it and remove it from we're going to remove the result of it from the background display. So if I get it back here, and you can see that when that's a lightish light gray here with a transparency for this one if it's just a frozen, but if I hide it, it will be like a bluish gray. Again, I'm using 2.5 or 2.6 Dynamo. You might find that different. It's 2.5, sorry. And you might find that different if you have a different version of Dynamo, so don't freak out if you have it differently. So that's a grayish, a bluish thing. If it's been hidden, if I don't select it, still have like a blue color in it. It's really important to remember those codes, because it's going to help you to understand what is the case. In number 5, it's a selected one. As I say, there's a blue frame around it. Yellow thing, it's usually giving you a warning. It might happen for lots of reasons, but mainly if let's say if you have a point, circle point here, and expecting here a point, and you add a boolean instead, and which is not the type of input that it was expecting. It's expecting a point, and when you give it this, it's gonna turn into a yellow thing. And usually when you hover above, you're gonna get a warning message. It's just, it wasn't expecting to call out for a boolean, or it's needed double actually, not. And it tell you that in the yellow message. Sometimes the yellow message is here for the warning that you got. Isn't that quite much of sufficient for you to understand what's the problem? But anyway, yellow is either for it's getting a wrong input, or sometimes it's created a null value, which is not because the error in input itself, and sometimes it can creating a group or part of the list that you are feeding, and it give you the null, and you can something you can say, or you can understand that something wrong by the yellow thing. What else? We have this one, which is the last one. It's a background preview one. So when you go ahead and select the background view, you can see this kind of ghosty nodes that you can see, just to tell you that there is nodes, and you can work in the 3D background as you need. So that's enough, I think, for the node status, or the node conditions, whatever you want to call them. Now wiring is really important, and I spoke about that last video, but anyway, it's really easy. It's just you need to create, let's go ahead and create a slider and add this slider. Let me remove that. So where is the slider? Yep, here it is. So if I connect this, just click on that and click on the radius, and you can just increase the thing, and you can say it goes big and small. So that's how we that's how we connect things. If you want to disconnect or remove that, just click this and move it. When that dotted, you can just fix it to another place or connect it to the other side, or you just click in the nowhere here, and it will disconnect. So that's how you add. Okay, you click here and click here, and to remove, just click here and move your hand. You can, in some cases, like if I have a case where I can get this, let's say number 5, and give that to the radius, and then I can come back and give that to the sides, and so on and so on. That's kind of be annoying, because you need to connect this like for 10 times. Instead, you can just I think you have to hit Control, and I'm hitting Control now on my keyboard, so you can see now I can add this to all of them, and you can see like I'm just crazily adding that for everything. I'm hitting control again, and when I want, just click anywhere in the space. And that's how you can use, the same input to feed more than, one point. And now the other way around, if I want to, I said I made a mistake, it shouldn't come from that input, it should come from, this input. It's very easy, and you have to hit shift continuously before, and then you click this guy here and you move your hand, and you see now everyone is dotted, and I'm removing everyone from this input, and I'm going to connect it to the Boolean. I know it's wrong, and I need to click, of course, and that's really important because sometimes you need to, by mistake, you feed from one point, and you need all those points to leave, and it's very painful if you move them one by one. So use the shift to move from the source input, and use control to take from the input to get for more than one option at the same time. So those basically how you add and remove, and how you use control and shift. And previously also about wiring was talked about, you can change their types from curves to polylines, and if you want, I'm not quite sure, a big fan of this one, but you can make them as polyline or like straight lines instead of curves. I do prefer them as curves. I think they are easier. Where are they? They are easier to, you can trace them and look at them exactly where they are going instead of those. And don't worry about organizing things. It's gonna be mess anyhow. And but some people prefer the line one. So that's all about wiring, and it's already been explained enough. And the fourth point that I was really need to talk about it is the nodes by source, and you can it's just a different ways of categorizing the nodes themselves, because if you have to understand, it's lots of lots of people who actually participating in making Dynamo. It's an open source, so you might get confused of what types of nodes you are dealing with. So there is a default nodes, which is like a point by coordinate one, which is already installed for you by default, and you can find it in the library. And it's, as I said, here in the Dynamo library, and you find, and sometimes you can have this custom nodes. And you can tell the custom nodes from, those like small rectangles above it. So this doesn't have it, the default one, while this dude here have those, have those small rectangles. This is done by you, and it's installed by, you can of course take someone else and add them as your custom node, but it's inside, it's not a default. You are not having this one now when you look at this video and try to search it. And there is a category here I created under my name. It's the third type of my category, and I can find it here, of course. And I have like a long list of what I actually programmed myself, and program nodes by myself, sorry. And I can select any one of those and get the result that I want out of those. But again, you see those small things, while the normal default one, you can find them here. So don't look for it on your machine. You will not find those. And they are just available on my custom library that I created. And there is the packaged nodes, which is like this one. This is from Lunchbox, one of the best packages available for you. You can download, and when you download them, you will find them. And again, that's 2.5. So probably if you have a previous version, they're going to be merged with the original one. But I think in Dynamo 2 or 2.5 they just make them separated, and you can find whatever types of library packages available in the net. You can install Lunchbox, and you're gonna find it here somewhere. All right, so that's another way of categorizing the nodes, and that's another way of looking at this topic, because I keep thinking of how we can organize our thoughts around it. And sadly, you need to understand the differences, because sometimes you keep looking for this node and you don't have it, or you look for this node and you don't have it, because you are looking in the default library, and none of those belong to the default one. Number 5, which is the last thing to talk about today, is the type of nodes. Again, another way of categorizing things from the previous one. So you can look at the nodes are as they are input nodes. And when you say input nodes, they are actually providing for you some types of information out of scratch or out from nothing. So let me have a look at which one. Yeah, here. If I opened this one, and you can see those, all of them are used or can be used as an input. And for example, the integer slider, and you can open it like that, and the same thing for the number slider. They're both providing numbers, but those are whole numbers, so just 1 or 2 or 3, there's no digits, while here you can use 1.5 or any double you want. And again, that's the input, so it's majorly doesn't have an input by itself. It creates something for you from nothing, and you can give the number, and it always have just the output to give you the feedback for you. So we call that an input, and they type or their actual functions or their actual types of input they give you, they are providing you numbers. You can create number as, you can just Google here or search here, sorry, number, or you can use Codeblock. If you double click here like this, you can use it to make 3 as a value for input and take this 3 to give it to any type of nodes you want. Input nodes can be string, so you write immediately like this. You can find it when you just write string here, and it's specialized to get text for you. Or you use the code block again, but you have to use those double quotations in order to tell the code nodes that the code block that they are actually a string. Input can be found as a vector for X value, Y value, or Z value. It can be dictionary path, it can be file path, it can be Boolean again, and it could be a date and time. So all those can be considered as an input nodes. So those, the first type of this is, this type of category, or this we call them input nodes. Default nodes versus custom nodes. So you can look at that, both of them. We have them, the normal nodes actually, we should call them. And they are any type of nodes you think, which is like 95% of the node, you find them here. Let's call them normal node, whether they are a default node, whether they are packages or custom, call them or categorize them the way you like. And all of them, let's go for circle for example, and as I explained that a couple of times, they have inputs and they have outputs. Okay, so those are normal nodes, whether they are custom nodes, whether they are packages or a default, they are having inputs and outputs. So not like this one, it just gives you an input. It's just an input value. It doesn't have its own input. It's just one way, and it doesn't have like the 2 sides of ports, as you can see in here. The last thing, or actually the third type, is the output nodes. Did I change that? Open. The output nodes, as by now I think you can think about it, they are just receiving from you the feedback, or actually they are targeted to show you something, like for example a watch 3D node, and it can give another view to see something different from what you have in here, or a normal watch, which is give you the radius of that circle, which is by default is 1, so it carries that to the circle radius and get you here as a text, or it can show you the geometry itself. So they are more like an output one. And of course, if you have if you are actually have a bit more experience with Dynamo, you know that you can create custom nodes, and I'm going to talk about that in detail later on. But the nodes that we are talking about here in the new, but if you go to custom nodes, it's like a create, I don't want to get in here, it's like creating a block inside Revit. Anyway, we're going to have a special node called input node, and we have going to have a special node called output node, and I will explain them in detail later on when we reach them. What else we have? We have the code block. The code block is a kind of all of them, and depend on how you want to look at it. It can be just double click to get it. It can be an input value when you say it's 5, and there's a semicolon will be created after it, and it will be providing you with a 5. So you can connect it to a circle, to the radius, and you have a radius of 5. You can make it as, you know, string. So you say hi, you know, you have to put this double quotations, and you know it will create for you a string. You can make it as a normal processing code. You can add a function to it. You can say A divided on B, and you can say that this is 2. So you can divide 5 on 2, and you get the output as a 2.5. So now it's a normal processed default unit, like any type of math unit. You can use that division in a math function, but you can define that again in Codeblock. So Codeblock is a type of textual programming, different from what you do here as a visual programming. And you can use again those, you know, you see this circle dot by center point, all that, to provide that here, and you can use that to create whatever you want. So you can go ahead and create point, for example, dot by coordinates, and you can say I want it on 5, 5, 5, semicolon, and it will create for you, as you can see, the point. So you can use it to create any type of geometry, and you can make it as an algorithm. Here it's a process unit actually. Here it's actually more like creating like a method of creating methods. But here it's like it's work as a function, like mathematic function. Here they are working as an input. This is again a textual programming way of work, which is we're going to talk about again soon in the next lectures. Anyway, that's all I can tell you or bore you to death about nodes, and you really need to remember and you be familiarized yourself with them, because you need to know where they are from and what they do, even as a basic topic for now. Try to follow the steps or the example, very basic example that I did here in this lecture. Anyway, thank you very much for watching me, and have a good day. Bye bye.